Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Saddleback Pod. I am your host, I'm Matt Gillett, and I'm here with Matt Cooper of Matthew Accounting, and we are going to talk about the wonderful world of accounting.
Yeah.
Thing that you're like, oh, this is going to be a great conversation.
Hot topic.
But tell us a little about yourself, Matt. I mean, you've been handling Saddleback's accounting for, it has to be 8-9 years at this point, so.
Yeah, at least that. I started my accounting business, just was thinking about it this morning, 18 years ago, and just started helping people with taxes.
Okay.
Always wanted to help small businesses, and along the way of building my practice and finding out what it is I liked to do, we developed helping small businesses and the individuals with their taxes, but also helping them throughout the year. So as the business grows, we help more and more small businesses. So now we have an accounting firm. We specialize in helping small businesses, but specifically restaurants, successful small businesses and successful restaurants. Help them with all their back office, accounting, payroll, tax planning, and general advice. We're getting into helping support business owners, restaurant owners with data and insights that tell a story that can help them run their restaurant.
When do you think a good time for somebody to get involved with? I mean, I know like tax season comes around for the individual and is now kind of marketed and branded more like you can do this on your own, go to TurboTax and all those other things. And I'm assuming if you're just, small mom and pop thing, not a ton of sales, you can probably manage those expenses as it is. But at some point, there's that breaking point, right? Of where, man, your time is so much more valuable to be working in your business or on your business than really necessarily in your business. When does at least bare minimum the tax style thing start really becoming important where you should hand it off to a professional versus an individual? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think about that a lot because I talk with lots of business owners, and there's different types of personalities, and oftentimes I'll find people in the beginning stages of their business and their career, and they want to save more money, right? Mm-hmm. They'll do their time. They'll spend hours and hours doing their accounting and their books and their finances. But what they really want is to save time and low cost. But you're right. There is a point where a transition will give you more value. Transition to have an expert help you, and that does start with tax, right? Yep. So my thought is the minute you start a business is the minute you should have somebody help you with your taxes at the very least.
Okay.
Now, maybe you don't need a full-time CPA, monthly accountant doing everything, but there's enough benefit to get from right away, right when you start your business, to at least just start developing a relationship with an accounting professional to help with taxes.
Okay, so if you're just an entry-level person, you're like, I want to start a restaurant, you should schedule some sort of meeting with an accountant just to get your ducks in a row and have those conversations that, hey, these are some red flags. Yeah. I know you haven't sold the thing yet or you haven't done anything yet, but just hearing what you're kind of trying to do, these are some things I'd stay away from. Because I know when I started, I was doing the whole, like, you can run everything through your business. You can buy all your clothes through your business. Like, I need a haircut so bad, and should I run this through my business? Like,
I got to look good for my business. Does it count? Yeah. Right. Those are all questions you can ask, all things that come up. And that's one of the ways you can drive value from your relationship with your accountant is what can I write off? Mm-hmm. And taxes are the first piece to that.
Yep.
But really, another thing that you can gain is insight into your business, into your taxes, and how to organize that information throughout the year versus just at the end. So I always compare it to working out and exercise and diet, right? Mm-hmm. You can't just wait till December and work out super hard and be healthy. Mm-hmm. You got to kind of do a little bit all year. And so it's same with your taxes. You got to kind of get those questions answered, keep those records, have those books and that support throughout the year. And so if you started off the beginning of the year with a relationship with an accountant, you can learn what it is you want to track, what it is you can write off, because it keeps your questions answered. Doesn't mean you have to meet with them all the time, but at least then you're off to get that foundation where at the end of the year, you'll have the information you need to save as much as you can on your taxes.
Yeah, I'm sure there's situations out there where, people, especially in the restaurant industry, are maybe not doing everything up to snuff, and it's starting to build up, and they're starting to do the, I didn't pay taxes last year, or I didn't do X, Y, Z, or I'm a little bit behind on this.
Yep.
And it just kind of evolves into it. And then eventually it is the restaurant shut down.
Yeah.
Now, and then from the outside, everybody's going, they shut down because of XYZ, when it's probably maybe they're just a little behind on their taxes
Hmm.
and they couldn't come up from where they were. When, like, what's the approach that a business should take in that situation? Where, like, should they just reach out to a CPA? Should they, because it's got to be a terrible place to be in, right? You're kind of on an
Yeah, it is.
island
It is
where
terrible.
you don't want to expose yourself, but at the same time, you want to take care of the problem.
Yeah.
Um,
And even on top of that, you might at that point be running a good business and it's working and it's profitable, but you're behind from years past.
mhm.
And so it's just like it's like a thing that never ends. It never goes
Yes.
away until you solve it, until you take care of it.
Yep.
Yeah. I think reaching out to an accountant, I would say most of the accountants, if not all of them that you deal with are that happens. People come to them like that. So we're not judgmental
Hmm.
and you're not going to get in trouble for coming to an accountant. We're here to help. So just admitting that you're behind and going to an accountant is the good first step, right? Stop digging yourself a hole and then just ask that person, what is it I can do?
Hmm.
Right. You kind of feel like you go to your accountant, you're going to the IRS and telling them, hey, I screwed this all up and I didn't
Yep.
pay. But really you're going to find somebody to help you. Right. And
Yep.
so finding somebody right away and realizing you got to find the right person, right? You want to have a personal relationship with your accountant. You want to like them. And then once you develop that relationship, you realize they're not there to judge you. They're there to help you.
Hmm.
And they'll help you get organized and they'll help you get off on the right foot and get out of that stuff that was in the past, help you put a system in place that doesn't let you do it in the future. But really, it's hard when you're behind and you might go out of business. And the worst part to me is that it might be, you might have gotten over a lot of the humps and the business is good now. You just owe too much for back
Yep.
taxes.
Yep. So we've got, I mean, obviously we've been working together for a while now, and we have a lot of the Matthew accounting systems in place. I don't know if we have all of them in place, but we've got a fair amount.
Yeah.
I gotta think that if you're out there, peddling your services, you got to
Yep.
say, well, I have this one business out there that uses
Yeah.
XYZ, and this is how. So I'm going to kind of walk through like how I look at it from a business
Sure.
owner, and then kind of interject. And so what we have you doing right now is giving us monthly reports, and these monthly reports. Well, actually, let's rewind. First, we do our payroll through you. So basically, as our point of sale system collects its hours and everything like that, we kind of just do a quick run through and make sure everything looks right. So our system goes through our general managers. They look at each of our stores. Then it flows over to me. Actually, it then flows over to Chris in your office, then back to me to double check, and then him to have a finalize on it. So we have like 5 sets of kind of checks and balances before payroll goes out. But it isn't me. Year one, I was literally there just writing out physical checks every single time. When tips started to become an issue, like it was even counting money and distributing out money in certain directions, I remember that taking me an entire day.
Yeah.
Where now it can be done on my end, 15 minutes. Like,
For a lot
it's-
more employees too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So that's one thing that we do. We also do bill pay through you. So most of our invoices that are sent through either go directly to you, so that you guys kind of organize them, put them through like a QuickBooks style system on your end, or if we get them through the mail, or refrigerator breaks, fixing guy, repair guy just writes me an invoice, I just send that in, and then the check's actually dispersed out through you. I then get another check and balance where I just kind of look at my phone, go, oh, we got to pay this, and I pull up my invoice, look at it, and then basically the check's automated through that. Does that sound right on those two descriptions? Pretty close to?
Yeah. We're taking a complex process. We're trying to make it very systematic and easy to reproduce and little of your time to be in compliance with what needs to happen. So we do that for your payroll and then the bill payment for your vendors.
So it almost seems like those two things kind of match I don't want to say it takes away from, but like it would be maybe equivalent to a bookkeeper to some degree, of like just staying on top of some things, making sure that
there's elements of it that are a bookkeeper. Yep.
Yep.
We also add in some additional advanced features like a bill approval and the approval process and some automation of all the tax forms for your payroll.
Yep.
But it's a system start to finish, and part of it definitely is a bookkeeper.
Yep. So then on top of that, we also we get our monthly reports through you. So now that you're seeing how this cash is moving through the business, where this money's being distributed out to and why, then you can formulate these reports that we get month end and can analyze now and look
Yeah.
at where we're succeeding and where we're falling short, what we can possibly change or improve upon, and what maybe we should be doubling down on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's we offer 4 services, or at least we categorize it into 4 different levels. One is payroll, we talked about. One is taxes, annual tax return. We'll get there, and quarterly tax returns. But you're really talking about the accounting function and the advice function that we offer. We separate those out, but they're interrelated parts. So we take all the data from your bank accounts, all the data from your QuickBooks, all the data from your POS. We do the bookkeeping thing. We do the accounting thing, and we put it into a report that's specific for your industry. And I think you're exactly right. We give you the advice you need to run your restaurant.
Yep. And for me, it's a lot of, I don't want to say it's taking a lot of the emotion out of it, of like, I feel like it's going really well, but then you actually get a report that says good, bad, or ugly. I still like to use some of that emotion, but it is giving some factual things that happen afterwards to say, oh, but
Yeah.
we need it. We ran steak this month and it didn't perform very
Yep.
well, or XYZ. Even though the customers are saying this is great, it just didn't. When it comes down to the bottom line, it didn't do very well. So I think that's a really, I at least get very nervous to look at those
Yeah.
documents, but then quickly can either be very excited or like, oh shit, we got to work on some stuff here. I think it's a powerful sheet of paper or document that I don't know a ton of restaurants to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I do. I think it's like one of the best parts of our service. I think it's the piece we like providing the most. It's clear and concise insight into your business, where you can understand it and make decisions that make you better.
Yep.
Right at first, like you said, you'd be nervous because there might be something on that report that says things aren't going well.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in business, you always have an opportunity to make things better or to keep making things good. And this report helps with that. Like, we try to tell a story, take all the data and put together these reports and insights and trends to help try to tell a story. But I think you mentioned something that was important too. Your gut feeling is important.
Mm-hmm.
This business, restaurants, and really any small business, it's part science, but it's definitely part art. There's a way to do it that you're unique to. So what we do is we get all that data, tell the story, give you some insights, but then you combine that with your gut feeling and your experience running the restaurant, and then you can make really good decisions. That's really what we strive to do.
Yeah, that's I think the thing that I've liked most about having the opportunity to work with you is that small business gets this weird thing of like, do what you love. You'll never have to work a day in your life. So there's that story of it. But then it's like, well, you also have to do pay all these things on time, manage all these people, not break any of the rules or say anything wrong while you do it. It just starts to become really overwhelming when it was like, dude, I just wanted to sell like hot pads, it's like, it's something which is stupid. And the thing that I like about your guys' approach or the way that it's gone this far is that it's like, no, you let us deal with that. That's why we're here. Let us look at the numbers and tell you the good, bad, and ugly from it. And then we can convene and say, what can we help you out with?
Yeah.
Where do we have to make up for this shortfall? How do we raise sales? What's worked for you in the past? Where I think a lot of times people are just on an island and they're just squirming, and then end of the year comes around and it's like, oh, here it comes. Like, is this going to be good or not? And
starting a business it can be very lonely. It's like you're the one in charge of the business. Even if maybe you have a spouse or you're married or you have other employees, it's still really, it falls on you a lot.
Yeah, totally.
It's lonely. We like to be your partner and try to help you be there to help guide you with the information to run your business, so it's not so lonely.
Yeah, and it is interesting because, I mean, as a small business owner, you probably are dealing with both sides of these things, right? Like, out of one side of your mouth, you're saying, hey, I want to help you with all these problems within your business. And then I'm sure on the other side of your mouth, you still deal with some of these problems in your business.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's a weird thing. Like, I'm talking these people off the ledge here, but, I'm kind of on the ledge myself here. Like, I got to figure some of this stuff out.
There is a piece of that for sure, because I'm running a business. I like, we built our firm to be an accounting firm, but really to be a business that has a system that can have a team that can help people. And so you're right to some degree. I have the same issues as everybody else, to a lot of degree, really. Same issue. I've gotten the accounting thing kind of dialed in.
Hmm.
So my accounting is good and the books are good. But whether it's the marketing or the team members
Yeah.
or the HR, that stuff's
The
all,
normal stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. Everybody deals with it,
Yeah.
right?
I'm
When's a
still
good
on
time to
that, like,
grow?
oh, geez,
Like,
did I
yeah.
do that right? Or did I, what's the next time to grow? How
Yep.
can I increase sales? Yeah.
Yep. So
Yeah.
it's the weird game within a game type of thing.
Yeah. It's part of the thing of running your business that's stressful, but it's also the part that's enjoyment, right? Like I enjoy coming to run my business and having the option of deciding what to do. What do
Okay.
I work on today?
Yep.
How do I make this better? How to make that better? How do I fix this? And if everything was all dialed in, there wouldn't be much of that. So there's definitely room for improvement.
So obviously you can do taxes for just an individual person. You can do it for a large corporation. You chose to focus on restaurants. Why was that
Yeah.
such a I mean, it's such a niche market
Yeah.
kind of on your end, but like why was that attractive? Why did you think that there was a good opportunity and a good need for that at that level?
My business has evolved over the years. So I think we're just under 20 years. Maybe I mentioned that earlier, but we started out with individuals, moved to small businesses, moved from annual service to an ongoing service. And all along, what I was searching for is someone we could really help.
Hmm.
What I got tired of and what I didn't really like or wasn't necessarily satisfying was just filling out the government tax return
Yeah.
at the end of the year, saying, hey, here you go, you owe, or you're getting a refund, and not really able to make a difference,
Yep.
just helping them. So what I decided to do is help businesses, and what we decided to do is help them regularly throughout the year. And what I found was, hey, these restaurant people have pretty cool businesses.
Hmm.
Hey, they're pretty complex too, and I enjoy working with them. Not only that, we can give these people information that's super helpful. And what I realized was it was in the beginning when we're just figuring out what businesses to help, it was comfortable helping restaurant owners that were successful take all their information and give them good guidance and insight to run their business. So as I got a few restaurant clients in the beginning, I was like, these are really good.
Yep.
Matter of fact, these clients actually like working with us.
Yep.
Right. And so we started specializing more because it was, I don't want to say easy, but it was comfortable helping restaurants. The other thing that's important to notice is running a restaurant is not easy.
No.
It is not like you just run your restaurant. Once you got it good, you can just keep going. It's like I compare it to like an orchestra. You got to be directing the orchestra all the time. If you
Yeah.
stop, it kind of goes like so. Restaurant people tend to work a lot.
Hmm.
They tend to work 7 days a week, and they're doing the books at night and on the weekends. And so what I noticed was not only was it comfortable for us to help restaurants, they needed the help because it was a regular thing they had to work on.
Yep.
And they don't have a lot of time to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Restaurants are open at night and weekends most of the time.
Hmm.
So when you combine all three of those things, it just turned out to be a really great place to help. And we started focusing more and getting more restaurants. Now, I would say up to half our clients are specific
I
restaurants.
didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That and
It
I would
feels good. Yeah.
I would agree with everything you said. Like when this got off the ground, I didn't know. I mean, I was trying to figure out how to like fry fries. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it sounds weird, but like, I'm trying to figure out a lot of the intricacies inside the building, let alone the business, let alone the tax side of thing, anything and everything. And it can be a thing that just wears on you. Like,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about all these things. I haven't thought about that. Like, and I think it is. I think it is a valuable thing to have on your team, especially if you're trying to grow. If you're a place that's like pretty content and it's like this is where I'm going to be, I'm going to do this for the next 20 years, and then I'm going to pass it down to, Matt Jr. or whatever, and then it's going to continue that way. Maybe not as much, but if you want to really run with things and you value your time and think you can be useful in other directions, it's like you really got to consider getting somebody outside to come in and help out on these.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think there's a couple of different clients that work very well with what we offer, and then there's another client that might be able to get by with something else.
Mhm.
If you have a restaurant and you're working 50, 60 hours a week and you really like it and it's just smaller and it's just you and that's what you want to do, and you have an accountant you meet with once a year and you're kind of good with that, maybe you can get by. But if you're
Mhm.
looking to grow your restaurant,
Yep.
or if you're looking to cut back in the hours that you're working and you want systems in place, those two things. So you want to manage a restaurant with less time or you want to grow your restaurant. I think those are where it's very valuable to have a service like ours.
And I know you obviously can't talk about other clients, but you can, it has to be a benefit to be able to see how other restaurants are performing, what metrics are they showing success with. And I don't mean that by like menu items. I just mean it by like, man, their lease or their rent is X amount and they need this much to get this thing working at these. It
Yes.
starts to get you a really good feel of like, nope, you're off here. And this
Yeah.
is the only place that you're off. If you can just focus in on this one stupid number right here,
Yeah.
this will all get better.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. We take confidentiality very seriously. And so we don't talk to other clients about other clients' numbers, right? But that said, we learn a lot from other clients in our industry and in our location and in our state. And what we do is we take what we learn on a high level and we can kind of use that to develop our system and our structure. And what we've done is we've gone back and developed a way to analyze your business model as a restaurant, right? So your Saddleback model is different than a high-end steak shop, which is different than a drive-through fast food restaurant, right? You all have slightly different business models. And when I say business models, I mean the financial side of your business model, right? And there are certain pieces of that puzzle in the accounting side of things that have to balance. It's hard to have low prices and super high quality food and expensive overhead, right? Those three things don't go together. It's very unlikely you'll have a reasonable chance of making a profit if you have those.
Yep.
So that's just a simple example of how we evaluate your business model, take our experience from the industry and help you fine tune it. And like you said, we help you focus on these numbers, right? We can help you focus on certain parts of your business model. We can tell you it is highly likely that you'll have a much higher chance of success if you concentrate on sales or if you concentrate on lowering your food costs or, hey, your rent is off and your overhead's pretty expensive. You're going to need to, adjust this number. So we can use our experience in the industry and with our other clients and help you develop your specific business model so you have what we call a reasonable chance of making a good profit.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, because at least on my end, I always feel like there's like Band-Aids and there's cures.
Yeah.
And sometimes what I chase are Band-Aids. And I just mean like a quick boost in sales, a quick item that has good profit margin, maybe a discount for a little bit. But that's not an actual, like I might just be masking the problem for a little bit. And I might be able to do that for a couple of weeks and it's going to show okay on my report. But is that sustainable over time? And is that actually fixing the problem or is it just, a Band-Aid?
Yeah.
And I think having that kind of, team in this scenario is good, is that you can look back at those reports and say, but what you did here was this, and remember that. And like for us, it's like we can go back, look at our logbook that's digitalized and like search that and kind of, brush through that and go, oh, we did do these things, or, oh, that catering came through this month, or, that's right, that one place called and we did this special thing. So it kind of just offsets them a little bit. So, on a performance standpoint, we can analyze that. And I think there's probably a lot of places that don't have any of that are just kind of shooting from their hip going, I think we had a good month last week. Like
I think, right? They look at their bank account and hope.
Yep.
Right? Oh, it's a little higher than it was last month. They forget about the loan or the credit card balance they took out. It is just hard to run a restaurant from your gut feeling.
Yeah.
Your gut feeling is important and it definitely helps with a lot of stuff. But you got to pair that with data and to make sure you're making these decisions. So we can come in and help and say, here's what the data is telling us. Here's what the story that we're seeing is. And here's what the experience we're seeing in the industry with other restaurants. Here's what you might want to think about. And then you can go back to your records and say, oh, this is what we did. This is what we didn't do. This is what's working. And we can both together collaborate and come up with, oh, here's how we're starting to fix the problem, not just the Band-Aids that you're talking about.
Yeah. I think like, obviously I love this industry. I can't imagine not being in it. Maybe there's a day or a world that I'm not in it, which that'll be an interesting one too. But it is a very hard industry. I think when uh, one long time ago, I went to a bank before Saddleback, and I was trying to get a loan, and they were basically like, just restaurants and construction are the two things we
Yeah.
don't loan on, and they basically just telling it in my face. So like,
Yeah.
it didn't matter if I had like McDonald's 2.0 figured out, like they're not touching it, and I think it's and I think a lot of the reason that is because one, most people think they can just do it. They can
Yes.
retire. They can just roll their 401k in it, and they just jump right into it because they're passionate about it. Like they like to go out to eat. They have that Salisbury steak recipe that everybody tells them is the best, and like
Yeah.
you should open up a restaurant. I mean, everybody's heard it.
Yeah.
Like this, and then it goes to their head, and then they see this grand thing happening, and it's like, holy shit, this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, like, wait, that did just happen, and now I'm stuck in this business that is highly scrutinized, highly regulated. It's very hard to turn a profit in it. If you can turn a profit in it, most of the time it has to go through you personally have to be putting up most of the work. Like you
Yeah.
just dumped all your savings into this passion project that like
Yeah.
now you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And before you
Or at
know
least
it,
you're in a spot where it's much tougher than just let's cook my
yes.
favorite recipe and sell it, right?
Yes, right. So then it's like it makes it more obvious of okay, if I'm going to do this, I better do it the right way
Yeah.
and know the way that I do think there are a lot of people that get into this as like their second business of like I retired
Mm-hmm.
early,
Yep.
I'm drawing a pension, I'm going to open up a brewery or a bar or a restaurant, and I don't know, it's like, do I spend all my time working on my lawn or do I open a bar?
Yeah,
Like
right.
you got to figure something out, and that's just where it ends up being.
That's like the standard retirement thing for the friends of mine. Oh, when I retire, I'll open up a bar. That'd be
Yeah,
fun.
it's crazy, and when I start talking about passionate things, like things that I want to do, like everybody's got an opinion about it, and
Yeah.
like I'm like, how many years have you worked in this? None, but like I
Yeah.
mean,
Right.
everybody talks about it. It's like, dude,
I eat
just
out all the time.
slow down here, man. I was just in Las Vegas. I saw this. I'm like, we're
Yeah.
in Lansing, bro. That
Yeah.
shit ain't working here. Like, uh,
Yeah.
so, but I do think it's good to, if you are that person that's, on the brink of starting out with something like that, is to really get grounded before you make that move.
Yeah.
It's not in the sense that, restaurants are also, it's not in the sense that I don't think you can do it, but it's also the idea that like, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, that you understand the good, bad, and ugly about what money you're going to invest in this thing. Because the last thing on the restaurant side of things that we need is like negative statistics.
Yeah.
Like the stupid restaurant closing thing and all that stuff. It like pins me because I'm like, there are restaurants that close all the time, and it is a hard industry. But some of these things get off the ground, and they just, they got into a mall lease, and they, that month to month lease at the mall. They run in there, they, buy a bunch of food. They're open for 2-3 months, and then they bail on the
Yeah.
thing. And then
Yeah.
that's a technical restaurant closure. So it's like, it starts to get those, like, now the statistics look bad. Nobody, I don't know, for lack of better terms, it can scare people away from the industry in general. Like, this is a dead thing on the side of the road. But really, it's got to be billions of dollars as far as revenue goes through restaurants a year.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's
Yeah.
just how it's perceived on the small scale.
Yeah. It's difficult to start. I would agree with you. I think take a hard look at what you're actually doing, right? We know you love a restaurant. We know you love food. A lot of people love that, and I do too. But also have an honest look at the difficulties and make sure you set yourself up to have a good chance to overcome those. So be organized, think through, talk to other restaurant owners like you're saying, and give yourself a chance of being reasonably successful without, working 90 hours a week and borrowing everybody's money.
30-30 is like kind of the, I don't know. I think everybody kind of says like 30% food cost, 30% labor cost is kind of the run of the mill. That's just, if you can do that, you can basically carry X amount on your fixed and
Say that
show
one more time. 30%
so like
food
30%
cost.
food and 30% labor
Yep.
cost
So like
is kind of like your
a lot of
round-
people describe as your prime
yeah,
cost.
prime
Yep.
cost.
So you can keep your prime cost below 60%. that will give you a reasonable chance of making a profit.
Is that
In
still
general.
true? Like, would you consider it like that? I mean, I've heard of that since day one, but I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
if that's
would I say
changed.
true? Yeah, yeah. But is it super helpful for your specific restaurant? I don't think it's as helpful as dialing that in a little bit more. And that's what we talked about with the business model. So maybe
Hmm.
it's 35% food and 25% labor. Or maybe it's 35% labor and 30, or maybe you have lower overhead and that can affect those two
Yep.
numbers. But in general, on average, that's pretty reasonable. Keep
Okay.
that in mind. That's a good thing to know and to shoot for. But one step better would be to customize those numbers for your particular business model,
Yep.
essentially, right?
And then what's the next cost under that somebody should be concerned with? Is it your rent cost or your building cost? Um,
It's a good question, and this is critical to those people starting restaurants as well. But essentially, and I'll explain that. But essentially, on a high level, there's lots of details that we go into, and we help restaurants with all the details. But on a high level, you have your sales, right? You want to sell a certain amount. That's an important number to look at. Then you have what you call your prime cost that we just talked about, which would be your labor and your food, right? And you have those marks, 30% equals 60% for your prime cost. The next thing that I think would be easiest to understand is just your overall other expenses, your overhead,
mhm.
right? And let's say you have 30 for food, 30 for labor, and 30 for overhead. It's not exactly that way, but that gives you 90% and that gives 10% profit.
Hmm.
That would be a very general rule of thumb. So what I look at is your overhead. And what I mean by overhead is how much is your lease, how much is your rent, how much is your insurance. All those things combined, maybe even advertising and marketing, those things combined add up to that other 30% number, which you would want to keep a hold of, keep it under that.
Where do you factor, like, if somebody's borrowing money, where do you factor that expense in at?
Good question. So, well, let me take a step back to that 30% overhead. The reason I said that's important for startup restaurants is, man, if you rent a Class A space and you spend 300 grand on kitchen equipment and you're making pizzas, you really kind of fixed your overhead at a certain rate,
Hmm.
and that affects that tells you what you can spend on food and wages in order to
Hmm.
make that reasonable profit. And
Yep.
if your overhead's 40, 50% because you just can't get sales up, that leaves you very little money for labor and food,
Yep.
which puts you in a pinch. And so we help with that. Sorry, I diverted. What was the last question?
If you borrowed money,
Yeah.
where does that
Yeah.
fit into that whole
Good
thing?
question. Borrowing money's common. But I would venture to say it makes the puzzle much more difficult.
Okay.
Now, the idea is ideally, if you could do this without borrowing money, that's how you want to do it. That's how you want to do it. But if you do borrow money, and that's common, a lot of places borrow money. It's cash flow, but you need to bake that into your business model, right? That 10% profit, some of that might go to pay off the debt that you have, right?
Yep.
It's just in my approach to business and even to personal finance, I try to lower my exposure to debt. So I try to keep that debt as low as possible because it's just going to take away from your profit at the end,
Hmm.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
Cash flow is another one, real quick. Cash flow is another one. Paying off that debt, you might have a profitable business, but it might be hard to pay that off and make your payroll and do this and that all at the same time. So
Yep.
not having debt would help your cash flow as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously, in the world we live in today, you can search for whatever answer you want to find, right?
Yeah,
Like,
good point.
cash is king. You only use cash. Then your next thing is, I run everything through my credit card,
Yeah.
and I fly and I travel for free all year
I'm a
long. So
millionaire,
yeah, it's what to believe, and
Yeah.
what best practices are can obviously be seen by multiple people with experience who have made at least at TikTok level money.
Yeah.
What's your 2 cents on that? I know you really lean into running with cash,
Yep.
working that scenario. I assume there's somebody in line that would say, yeah, but you're never going to grow fast enough.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So I've developed my approach to personal finance and business finance and debt over the last 20 years. Just a lot of work and a lot of thought have gone into it. And in the beginning, I'm early 20s. I think I know my answer. And so I'm like, no debt. That's the only way. That's the best
Yep.
way. And then you start seeing people who are successful that have borrowed. And then you just see a lot of variety and a lot of things that work for different people. So what I've developed over the years is what works for me is different than might work for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody's asking me what works for me, my style is no debt. I
Mm-hmm.
work very hard to try to do the things that I want to do and not use debt to do that. And I didn't start like that, right? So I paid off the debt along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my personal approach. But over the years, I've seen people be successful doing it different ways. And so what I really did is I went back and revamped my philosophy to say, if you're asking me what I do, this is what I do, no debt. However, doesn't mean that's what you have to do. You have to find a plan that works for you. And the plan that works for you is a plan that's proactive, that's on purpose, and it meets your goals. So you want to think about your goals first. Like, what do I want to do? Do I want to run this restaurant? Do I want to retire early? Do I want to buy a cottage? Do I want to expand to multiple locations? You think about those ahead of time. And then you look at, well, how can I meet those goals most efficiently?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it might be, for me, I like paying it, doing it with no debt. For you, it might be something different. You might borrow a little bit here and borrow a little bit there. A lot of people do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's okay as long as it's proactively thought through and it meets your plan, right? What I don't like to see is somebody say, well, shoot, I need a new oven. I'm just going to go out and buy the best, most fanciest oven and borrow all the money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
When really, you could have bought a used oven for cash and that would have helped you open your second restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
But instead you went and borrowed money and bought this perfect oven. Those are the things that I say, well, why don't you take a step back, think about those proactively so that you can meet your goals and have that overall financial plan meet your goals.
Yep. When somebody's coming to the end stages of their business and you're looking at kind of their numbers and they're trying to decide, do I just shut this thing down and sell off the assets? Is there some way of selling this to somebody? What should the buyer and the seller I mean, I know it kind of gets off of the topic, but how would you what advice would you give to somebody that's positioning themselves to make that kind of move? Like from a buyer side, at least on my end, I would say I want to see some clean books.
Yeah.
I want to be able to actually look into your business and say, this place is succeeding. I can take this over with as little headache as possible, which I think is extremely important because I have looked at books and they can be I mean, I'm not kidding you, as bad as like a torn sheet of paper handed to you. Like, this is what we do. Like, there's
doesn't tell you much of a story.
Yeah. And then on the seller side, at least on my end, I think you got to start docking what you have, because the last thing you want to do is be in a buy-sell situation, and then the guy across the table goes, there's obviously the register money in there. I take X amount out of this thing. Like, I probably believe, but I don't. There's no proof of that, so I'm not just going to pay for something.
Definitely
that I don't know.
happens, but think about it this way. Yeah, so you just told me you're lying about your books, but you want me to trust you about that.
Yeah.
And so it happens, and there is some sense that, yep, that's how we do it. Okay. But that is like a competing thing. Like,
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I know you're telling the truth about anything else? How do I not? That's hard. And I'm an accountant, so I'm going to always lean towards the side of having organized books and putting everything on your books. I learned early in my career that, and I learned this from Dave Ramsey, actually. I learned a lot from him, the radio podcast guy that is for finance. But he said, it's not worth it to cheat on your books. Yep, you might save a little bit of money. You might pay this, but it's a slippery slope. And so what you should do is just have a hard policy of not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It'll keep you out of trouble. And I also added to that, it will not only keep you out of trouble, it will help you have the data you need, because it'll all be recorded, to run your business better.
Yeah.
Right? If you have all this stuff on the side and you have these books over here, it's generally a mess. Generally, you feel good about this money over here because you're not paying taxes on it. But I think you'd be better served by recording all of that.
It's always, the few times that we've had to show books for something, it's always been such a huge benefit to just download, send them right over. And it was like on the other side of the table, somebody's always sitting there going, oh, looks like you got your shit together.
Wow. Yes.
Like, this is good. And, being able to even say, here's a monthly report of where we're at right now today, and sending that stuff over, where I think, for some of the opportunities that have happened for me in the past of like, are we interested about getting involved with something like this? And then start asking questions and nothing is aligning.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes away from even that great idea or that excitement that might have been something really good. It's
you're right.
I just can't, it's not responsible for me to touch this. Like, I can't I think it's gonna work, but just there's not enough here for me to
Yeah,
go with.
I'm with you. And I think organized books will help, and keeping everything on your books will help both the buyer and the seller, right? Gives you the information, and it also just helps you run your business. You're just less likely to go out of business. And when you go to sell it, it's valued higher,
Hmm.
right? Like you said an example of you or somebody you know, hey, this is my register, this is my sheet of books. What do you're not going to value that as much as if they
No.
had the clean books that you're showing
And
now,
that's
right?
kind of where I've come from. It was like, listen, we can talk about your assets
Yeah.
or we can talk about what your business is worth. And I'm hoping that your business is worth more than what your assets are, because typically those don't add up
Right.
very high.
Right.
But in order for us to have that conversation, you got to have some numbers here signed off by like somebody professional, and
Yeah.
there's got to be some matching in here. Otherwise, it's like, dude, I can make a spreadsheet too. Like
Yes.
it's a bad
Got to
bad.
have some organization to your data so it can tell me the story that makes sense that I'm attracted
Yep.
to that I want to pay for.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just, and the only reason I bring that up is because I know that I mean, I search these rabbit holes of like looking at these businesses online and seeing what they have to offer, and they come up with these prices. I don't know where the hell they come up with them. I hope it for the right reasons. But most of it seems like it's a retired situation. Like I'm just retiring, or maybe my lease is
Yeah.
up, and it's like that's a good opportunity for the right person to, I think, jump into the restaurant industry if they can get a good deal on it, because it's
Yeah.
like everything's in tune, like it's ready to kind of go. You don't have to do a ton of stuff, but it's also can be a real scary thing because
It's sketchy.
you don't want to buy somebody else's problems. You don't want to get into it's just like buying the used car,
Yeah.
right? Like you're buying somebody else's problems. Like maybe it's a bad location, maybe they've just never, they failed at everything, and this is where it's at. And they're
Yeah.
just trying to
Yeah.
just throw it out on the limb. So
They'll put it out there as I'm just retiring. I'm kind of ready for a change. When if you looked at the numbers and they had organized books, it might tell you that well they work 80 hours a week because they have overhead that's entirely too high,
yep.
so their labor has to be low in order to make any profit, and they're supplementing that with their hours and
And you don't want to touch
yeah
that.
no
That's
no
you're
right
literally paying for the biggest headache in
yeah
the entire world.
yeah
Yeah, you don't want any of that. So I mean, I'm kind of running down on stuff like, what are takeaways or things that you know you who's the customer that you like? I don't want to say your ideal customer, but kind of in that sense, like if somebody's listening to this, they're
yeah
operating a business, or maybe they're just working in the industry and they're thinking about things. What are some key things that should chime off in their head, and they should say, "I should call Matthew Accounting about this."
yeah. So that's a good question. So um, we have two types of clients typically that we like to help. One is a successful restaurant. You're already running, you're successful, and you need help staying successful or growing. And those are the people that can look out to us in the restaurant industry. Like we have good processes, good systems, and good products. And not only that, we specialize in the restaurant industry, so we
Mhm.
can really help you grow and manage your restaurant. And we also develop a partnership with our clients so that we're like, it's not the accountant that you pay per hour. It's no, this is a partner. This is a friend that helps us grow and manage our
Mhm.
business. So successful restaurants that are looking to make a change, um, looking to make a change because their accountant retired, because they weren't quite happy with the reports. They're just not getting everything, or they're getting too many tax notices. Reach out to us. We can be honest and clear about what we can do for you and how we can do it. And if you're in the restaurant industry, we have the experience that really can help, and we can customize specifically to your restaurant. The other type of client might be somebody who's starting a restaurant, right?
Mhm.
And they just want some basic help in the beginning. They want some understanding. You could be starting a food truck, and then now you want to go to your first location, or you're buying a restaurant. You found that one, the person's retiring, you're buying it. I would say anybody in those circumstances should reach out to us um, to get information, to see what we offer, to see what the foundation they need to have good records. Doesn't mean they need to work with us, but it would be valuable to reach out to us to see what we offer and give them some basic advice on how to get started.
Mhm.
Building that foundation early, having somebody tell you, hey, I've seen this happen before. What you need to do is have QuickBooks.
Yep.
Don't be, getting your bank account doing your books in January at the end of the year, right?
Yeah, and to kind of lean back to on one other thing is that technology's come so far that I think a lot of times it they make it sound like that app will take care of it, or
Yeah.
this program will take care of it. It's still kind of like the good in and the good out. Like if you don't put that information in the proper way, you're not going to get the results driven
Yeah.
outward. So I think that that can be kind of misguided, because I know that we've tried in the past certain softwares and we've demoed certain softwares where there's just a lot. Like I do think if it's working perfectly, it is going to give you those results,
Yeah.
but the effort that you have to put into that to get those results is astronomical. It's a lot. Where in your system, it doesn't, at least to me, it doesn't feel like. Now we've obviously got all of our staff on board and
Yeah.
they produce a lot of this stuff, but it doesn't feel like we're actually closing out any major things like weekly or daily. It's just now in our process. So,
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things we've done over the last 15 years is we have customized and developed and structured what we call like a tech platform.
mhm,
We also had our processes in there, but we have best of breed software. We've used a lot of different softwares, and we've fine tuned it into the certain ones that'll help you with your payroll, that'll help you with your QuickBooks, that'll help you with your bill payments.
mhm,
And we dial that in. Now, can you go out and get those softwares on your own? Yeah.
mhm.
But the processes and the work that goes involved with setting it up and knowing if that one's right for you,
Yeah.
right? Um,
And that has been seamless on our end. Like
yeah,
when that setup process was just basically like,
that's
okay,
great to
show me
hear.
how to use your app, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's not terribly
So
bad.
we've worked very hard to come up with that structure. Here's what you have to have, and then we'll customize it to the business. Like if some businesses don't want bill pay, we won't do that, or
Hmm.
we'll make it fit for your business. But you're right, we did a lot of the work on the front end to make sure this software works well, and is easy for you to use, and that it fits for your business.
Hmm.
Whereas if you're doing that on your own, yeah, maybe you get QuickBooks and you get some other platform and you connect them. It's just a lot of work.
It is.
It's a massive underhaul to get that to work. And you're not, even though those are great softwares, are you 100% sure it's great for your
Mm.
specific business, right?
Yep. I think like the if I had an elevator pitch, not an ask, it'd be if you're writing checks to pay your laundry guy, to pay your beer guy, to pay your food guy, all your employees, things like that. If you're like handwriting checks,
Yeah.
they should probably reach out.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that they're not efficient. I just mean that like it's a lot to go through all that stuff. I've been there. I know it can take on a ton of time. It is important that like your time can be spent somewhere else. That being said, I also think it's powerful to think about that doesn't mean that your job as a business owner is being eliminated. I think sometimes business owners
Good
feel
point.
like, well, I do the payroll. I do all the bill pay. What am I? That's not what's being said here. It's
Hmm.
not like we're just going to eliminate you, Diane.
Yep.
Like, it,
I
like
hear a
it's
lot too
not.
that, that's how I analyze, how I'm doing is I enter the data and I put it all together,
No,
and they worry that that's going to go away and they'll just kind of have
there's so
not a
much
good
still to
feeling.
do.
Yeah.
It's just you're going to have to learn another element inside your business, and you're probably better off in that other element. Like just make this go
Yeah.
kind of fast and streamline it, and it'll save you time, give you better insights on what's going good and going bad. And
Yep.
at
With
least,
any restaurant, systems are important, like having systems for your marketing, having systems for your employees. But having a finance and a back office system is important as well. And what you want is that system to give you the information you need, not for you to run that
mhm,
system, you know?
yep, yeah, no, it's I mean, all in all, we've been really happy with the process thus far. It's gone well. Through our team, we always joke if we're like the most beloved customer of Matthew Accounting or the most hated customer of Matthew Accounting. Because I mean, to the we don't I don't advertise it in our industry, but we'll always be like, well, just email Matthew Accounting about it. Like, and
Yeah.
but that's I think attributed to you guys that at least you outwardly haven't like raised your rates or crazy amounts or anything like that, or but
I
you do
appreciate that. Yeah.
answer the emails, and I never get a that doesn't really have anything to do with us. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever gotten anything like that, or if it has been, it's just let me get you to the right hands type of
Yep.
person, and that goes for all of my staff.
I
That's just
appreciate
not
that.
me. So I think that shows that we value obviously your knowledge, your experience, and your team's experience in that field, and that it's reliable, that we will get an answer from you, even if it's an answer that we
I
don't want to
appreciate
hear.
that. We have a great team, and we structured it so that we could be like, it wasn't just us saying it, but we structured our office and our business so that we could have a team that could be your partner to help you grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So not somebody who's like, well, you want to answer that question, I'll charge you, right?
Yeah.
It's more like, reach out to us. We're here to help you. We want to help you.
Yeah.
And so I think what you're saying is great feedback for me. I really appreciate that, because our team tries very hard to be your partner to help you run your restaurant. And
It's getting ahead of the stuff, like not letting it bleed out and then it's just too late. We can't, the only way you guys win is if we're successful.
Yeah.
Like that we have to make enough money so that it makes clear sense to keep, that part of the business intact. If it doesn't work out that way, everybody loses. Like business closes down, you don't have a customer. Like it doesn't make sense. So if you continuously can go down that road and confidently have that teammate on your team, on your roster, it's a good growth path.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You're one of the long-standing clients we've had. One of our favorites. We really appreciate it.
You also give cool Christmas gifts that I don't always say thank you for all the time. But
well, we talk a lot. We understand. I mean, same goes for you, right? Like a good example, you help us with hunting and different stuff like that, right? We've become friends over the years, and I think it's because we have a good relationship with the business at first. So,
well, I appreciate you coming out. Where can people reach you at?
Probably our website would be a good place to start, matthew-accounting.com.
Okay.
And then, always give us a call.
Okay.
We'll set up a time to meet. We're not salesy. We're just here to help, right? We want to help be your partner. So if you have any questions at all about restaurant accounting, check out our website, give us an email, or just give us a call, and we'll set up a time to talk, and we'll talk a little bit about your restaurant and if there's any way we can help.
Sweet. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.